What's up, everyone? This is JJ. I am the host of This Week in No Code Plus AI. This week, we're going to do things a little bit differently. Previously on the show, we had Jacob Bank, the CEO and co-founder of Relay.app. Now, I'm bringing Jacob back onto the show, and we're going to do a special labs episode where we build 3 AI automations together using Relay.app with Jacob leading the build. I'm excited to pilot this new format to see if it's helpful for us to, one, introduce you to the tool and the founder behind it, and then bring them back on to actually build some real things with it. In this use case, we're pretending that we're real estate agents, and we're building 3 different AI automations to help real estate agents automate some of their workload and provide a better client experience. So I hope you enjoy it. Please leave us some feedback and notes to see if this is something we should continue to do in the future. Otherwise, thank you for Jacob for agreeing to come back onto the podcast. And without any further ado, let's get on with the show. Hey, Jacob, welcome.
I'm super excited for this session. We've been wanting to do like a live collab like this for a long time, and let's just dive into it.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. Today, we're going to be building 3 different things, all with Relay using the help of AI, and we're pretending that we are in the real estate industry, all right? So we got 3 things on the docket. Personalized listing notifier. So this will let us know when, say, we're real estate agents and listings go out every single day or whatever occurrence we pick will help us match those listings to our prospective buyers to just help that real estate agent, right?
I think we got this idea from, we actually have a Relay customer doing something similar where they get, I can't remember if they get an RSS feed from the MLS itself or they get emails from Redfin or Zillow with a list of properties, and they have their list of clients, and so they want to figure out using AI when this new property is on the market, are any of my clients likely to be interested, and if so, I should send to them right away so we can get the first tour.
100%. That seems super helpful. The second thing we'll build is a listing launch social media generator. So essentially, once I get ready to launch a listing as a real estate agent, this will help me prepare all the social media assets that need to go out. And we could go into like every platform. We won't do that on this call. We'll do the big steps of it, but again, a really helpful functionality.
And I was thinking in this case, we could demonstrate Twitter and maybe just Twitter or Twitter and LinkedIn.
Sure.
We will do a simple thing where we show you how to create customized image asset on the fly.
Cool.
And then you'll get the text image of the post.
Perfect. And then finally, we'll do an active client and analyzer. What one is this one again, Jacob?
Yeah, the idea behind this one is I've got a roster of clients, or I as a fake real estate agent have a roster of clients. And I want to make sure I'm just like keeping a pulse on them over time. Yeah. So the idea that this is going to run once a week, it's going to look at our client database and just say, what's the latest thing that happened with each one of them? And do I need to reach out? Do I need to check if they're still interested? Do I need to check if maybe their criteria have changed? I know that a lot of real estate agents have many of their clients that are sort of in the somewhere on the buying journey, and they need to just sort of keep them. It's kind of like a nurture campaign.
Yeah, it is for sure. Awesome. Well, why don't you pull up your screen? We'll get started with building our first one, which is a personalized listing notifier. We have also put together a database filled with prospective buyers and listings that we're going to be using for these builds. But here we are in Relay.app. This is Jacob's baby. He is the founder of this. Why don't you just give us a quick little rundown of what is Relay.app?
So Relay.app is a workflow and agent builder. If you're familiar with automation tools like Zapier or Make.com, right? And if you're listening to this, I bet you are. Mm-hmm. Relay.app is conceptually in the same category, but we've tried to design the product from the ground up for the era. So it's very easy to incorporate judgment into your steps. It's very easy to include a human in the loop, to override AI if AI gets it wrong, to generally create these really intuitive workflows and agents for flows like the 3 that we're gonna show you today.
Awesome. And just like any good automation, we start with a trigger here. So what is the trigger going to be for this automation, Jacob?
So in this case, we're going to use an email received trigger because I, as a fake real estate agent, am going to get emails every day. Maybe you can send me a test email right now that has a few property listings in it with just addresses, locations, and some basic bedrooms, bathrooms, and pricing. And then I'm going to show you how we can set up an email received trigger that's going to automatically kick off the rest of our workflow. For real, you use this for real with like an MLS email or a Redfin email or a Zillow email. So I'm going to start by pressing this big blue trigger button in the top of the screen. And that's going to pull up all the different types of triggers that you can create in Relay.app. Again, if you're familiar with Zapier, Make, and you'll see a lot of familiar concepts here. You can trigger based on an action in the app. You can trigger a manual run. You can trigger on a schedule from an RSS feed, etc. In this case, we want to do an app-based trigger because we want to trigger based on an email being received in my Gmail account. So I'm going to type Gmail, and then you'll see the second item down there is email received.
And I just sent that email.
Indeed, I only want to trigger for the first email in the conversation.
And
so
smart.
My guess is the email you sent me is the I love this homes email. Yep. Perfect. And so in my little preview box here, I can see all of the emails that I've received recently. And then I'm going to set up a filter to make sure that I'm only going to trigger for the right subset of emails. And so in this case, I'm going to filter for subject contains homes.
Great.
And if I filter for subject contains homes, you'll see that my preview box updated. And the only email in that preview box is now, I love these homes. And if I get future emails that contain homes in the subject, those will also trigger the email. Okay, so that was the simple part. My agent or workflow is going to wake up whenever I get an email with I love these homes. And now we need to do two things. First is we need to reference the information in our client database. Then we need to analyze the content of the email. And then we need to marry those two together to decide if any of our clients are a good fit for the emails. So maybe first, let me just show people the client database that we're going to work with for this demo so everyone can see it. It's a super simple spreadsheet that has two tabs. These are the homes that we've listed. We're not going to use these in this use case, but we're going to use them for a different use case. You can see we have some names of homes, some addresses, some simple descriptions, some pricings, some listing URLs. And then we have the list of buyers. These are our clients. They all have a price range that they're looking for. They have some features that they like. They have some notes about their preferences. We know when they started looking and then what their status is. And then we have their email address. And so we're going to have our use this spreadsheet as knowledge that it can use to make its decisions. So let's dive in and build some AI. So I'm going to press the add step button. And once again, we have many different types of steps. You can initiate actions in an application, like sending an email. You can use flow control logic, like branching to a path A, path B, or looping over a list of things. But in this case, we're going to use, and we're going to select the first option, prompt any model.
Which is great for something like this where it's really fuzzy of like, we don't know exactly what we need. We need AI to do this. Yeah,
exactly. So we have a bunch of built-in things for extraction, summarization, but this is kind of a bespoke use case. It doesn't fit into any of those specific examples like extraction and summarization.
And this is kind of where normal automation would fail. Like it's no if or then if it contains. It's like a lot more
I can't think of a way to use if this then that rules to construct this automation. You need some intelligence. Some intelligence here. And now I'm sure everyone watching this has used ChatGPT and has written prompts before. It's all the same. The only difference I want to call out is that when you're prompting in the context of a workflow, you don't need to think about just the instructions you're giving. You also need to think about the inputs and the outputs. What data and context does the AI need? In this case, we need the email and we need the spreadsheet. And then what do we want to get out of this? And what we want to get out of this is actually quite nuanced. What we want to get out of this is a list of clients that we think might be interested in a home for that email, from that email. A draft of an email to them of why we think it's interesting.
Oh.
This is crazy, right? Because we're going to have a list.
Yeah.
It's going to be for each in the list, we're going to put in the client name, the client email address, and then a draft of the email we're going to send to them. I mean, think about how cool this is. We're having our AI draft like a dozen emails on the fly based on just this one email coming in.
Does this real estate agent even need to work anymore?
Yeah. So let's build that up step by step. So you can see here that in data from previous steps, I've already attached the email. That's one of the building blocks. We need access to the email, which is going to contain the listing of homes. Let me actually just go back quickly and look at the email so I can see what we're working with in here. It says, I love these homes. And in the body of the email, you can see in the body of the email, it lists 3 or 4 homes with some examples of each. Perfect. So we've got that coming in from the email. Now we also want to give some knowledge, and that knowledge is going to be our client list from that spreadsheet. So I'm going to click the knowledge button, and I have some existing knowledge bases set up, but I'm going to make a new one in this case, and I'm going to pull in a spreadsheet from Google Sheets, and the spreadsheet I'm going to select hopefully comes up first in the list. Real estate, yes. So that's the spreadsheet I just showed you, and you can see here's a preview of the spreadsheet, and those are the buyers. So I'm going to attach that. Okay, so now the AI has what it needs. Should we write a prompt?
We should write a prompt. I just want to say that I love that you can add a knowledge source right into this to make it even smarter. It's really helpful and flexible to be able to do that. Some platforms don't allow you to do that.
Yeah, and the cool thing about the knowledge is that even as our list changes, this knowledge will always stay in sync, up to date with whatever the current client list is.
Cool.
So this prompt's going to be a little careful. We're probably going to have to iterate on it a few times, but let me start this. So, given email contains a set of new home listings, we want to identify whether any of those listings are relevant to our clients. In your knowledge, you have a list of clients, which includes information about who they are and what they're looking for in a home. Please carefully review the email and the client list to output the following: a list of clients that we should contact with new opportunities. For each client name, client email, draft of email subject to them, draft of email body.
And you could do this all within one call too.
Doing this all within one prompt. This is a bit ambitious. I'm trying to do a lot here, so we're probably going to have to play with this prompt a few times. But you can see what I did there. At first, I told the AI, here's what you've got. Here's what you have access to. You have access to an email. You have a knowledge base of clients. Here's what you got. Here's the context. This is a good prompting technique. Always give it the context first. Then second, here's what I want you to do. I want you to carefully review the email and the client list. And then I want you to give me the following: a list of clients we should contact. And then for each client, the name, the email, the draft of the email subject, the draft of the email body. And then you could see probably as I was typing this prompt, the box on the right was changing. And this is the output that we're going to produce. And so broadly speaking, any AI model can produce 2 types of output. It can produce text or it can produce structured data. And whenever you're working with like a spreadsheet or a CRM, or in this case, sending multiple emails, you want structured data. As you can see that I'm going to get a list of responses with the client name, the client email, draft of email subject, and draft of email body. And because this is a hard task, I'm going to choose this model, Claude 4. For an easier task, I might use a cheaper model like Gemini 2.0 Flash, but I think this is a pretty hard task, so I want to use a good model.
Do we want to add in anything about like personalizing the email to each or something like that? Or is that...
I'm sure we're going to have to, but I want to just first get a lay of the land of like how good is AI at this task right now. And so maybe I'm going to say, please carefully the email client start with the following: a list of clients. And I'm going to just say maximum 3 best clients for now, because eventually I might want this to cover my whole client list. But just while we're testing it out, while we're iterating on it, I think I just want to look at 3, because I'm guessing you're right, JJ. We're going to see this email and be like, whoops, like that email is not good enough. We need to go back to the prompt and modify the email. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to retitle this step and say assess opportunities and generate email drafts, just so it's a little more readable, like what's going on in here.
Yeah, a couple of things I want to call out. It's super cool how you can see the outputs previewed in real time like that. Like that's really fun and helpful to see what you need, to be clear there. Also, you have behavior right here. Should a person review the AI output? Yes or no? I assume that's just a human in the loop.
That's the human in the loop. And I think in this
Easy
case,
enough.
we're not going to need a human in the loop,
Right.
but I'll show you
No.
where we might want to add a human in the loop later. But if,
Right.
for example, you have a case where it's drafting content, maybe the next example where we show the social media posting where it's drafting content, then we'll want to add a human in the loop so you can edit the output before the post goes. But for now,
But
I just
you
want
make that so easy, that human in the loop. Just yes or no. Do you want human review? You don't like
and then
fancy
you have a
names
couple
or
options
anything.
actually. So like, yes, I always want a human to review it, or only if the AI fails. Like if the AI can't do the job, or if some of the output fields are empty, then I need human help. And you can kind of decide, like, depending on the use case, what level of human involvement is appropriate. And so now I'm just gonna test this, and I want to see what happens. Come on, AI. It's so funny, like this mindset where like a little like cheerleader for AI, like, come on, AI, you can do it. Like, you can solve this problem.
Yeah.
Okay. So the AI completed. And here's what the AI said. There are 3 clients we want to reach out to: Alexander Jones, James Wilson, and Elijah Gonzalez. For Alexander Jones, we have his client name, his email address. We have a draft of the email. And I'm going to show you this here. It says, perfect 4-bedroom family home in Albany, $265K. And the draft of the body is, hi, Alexander, hoping you're well. I wanted to reach out because I found a property that seems like an excellent match for your family's needs. Here's the address. Here's the amount. Updated 4-bedroom floor is right in your price range. Offers everything you wanted. This is honestly
pretty good.
Incredibly good email. Like, we should go back to the spreadsheet and check that all of these things are accurate. So let's go check that Alexander Jones actually has this price range. So let's go to the spreadsheet.
A little tip here. Do you have to normally tell AI of like, don't hallucinate, like don't make anything up?
Yeah, so this is the thing, because like I see here, you don't have to say don't hallucinate anymore, actually. I see here, this is so cool, JJ, this actually worked. You can see that Alexander Jones has a price range of $250 to $275K. He wants a 4-bedroom, wants rooms for the kids to play. And if you go back to the absolutely nailed it. Like, this is right in your price range. Here's the stuff about it. Here's link to the listing. The one thing that I'm not super happy about is it signs off as best regard your name. So I'm just going to go back to the prompt. I'm going to give it a little more guidance. Like, sign off the email, best regards.
Yep.
And then if I run this, I'm not going to go through actually running that again, but now it'll do the sign off correctly. So now the AI has successfully generated, and we're not going to check the other emails, but this one was pretty awesome. So the others are probably pretty good too. So the AI has generated a list of these emails, but it's not going to send them. So let me quickly now show you how to go through and actually send them out. And now we're going to use a slightly more advanced construct called an iterator. An iterator, if you're familiar with loops or iterators in other products, an iterator basically just says, we're going to do a sequence of actions for every single item within a list. In this case, we're going to send each of those emails. So I'm going to press the plus button.
And we have 3 items in the list that we want to loop through.
Exactly. The first thing we got to specify is the list we want to loop through. And the list in this case is the output, the responses that the AI gave us in step 2. And then for each one, I want to send an email. The email I want to send is to, it's to the client email. This is why we had to generate these fields specifically, so that we can make it really easy to fill in this email later, because we've got the client email, we've got the subject, we've got the email body, and we're good to go. And so now if I turn this on, whenever I receive an email, it's going to generate all those drafts, and then boom, 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 it's going to send all of them. Let's say I want a human in the loop.
Okay.
So if I want a human in the loop, I could add a human in the loop before that send email step. And I could say, just like, get my approval over Slack.
Great.
Before you send it, and say, should we send this email to
nice
name, and we'll have the email. And so what I recommend is, like, when you're doing something like this that has client communication, I really like keeping that human in the loop step at the beginning. And then if you find that the emails are as good as that one that we saw to Alexander Jones, you just take the human in the loop out and you just run it automatically.
It's training wheels right now. We're just seeing how it goes. And then if it's good, we could take them off.
I have this. I'm honestly super impressed with it there. Like it referenced his exact price range and criteria. It referenced the aspects of the house. It's pretty cool.
You know what? You gave it a pretty good prompt, though. You were a good communicator. I think communication goes so far, not only with humans, but with AI too. And so saying, the context, the role, the output needed really helps in this way.
Exactly. And the prompt, it's not like my prompt was that long. It was maybe 100 words or so,
Yeah.
but it had those steps. Here's the context. Here's the data you're going to have. Here's what you're trying to accomplish. Here's your instructions. Review both of these carefully, and then here's what I want back at the end. You don't need to write a 10-page thesis for your prompt. You just need to think carefully about those things. What context are you giving? What do you want it to do? And what do you want the output to be?
Yeah, you could work up to a longer prompt, but it's really hard to troubleshoot a longer prompt. You don't know like how to adjust it. So start small and then keep adding if you need to.
Exactly. And like we did, test it with a couple specific examples before you go run this for 100, before you run this over a data set of 100 emails.
Yeah. Do you think we could share this as a template in the video afterwards?
Definitely. I'm going to make a template right now. I can actually show you how to do it right now. You would press this export as template button.
Yep.
Then we'll automatically generate a description with AI, identify top clients for new home listings, and send them personalized email drafts. And now I have generated template URL that I'll send you for this session.
Perfect. So we just saved you all 3 hours a week. Do we have time for another one?
Let's do another one.
Okay. That was incredible.
Let's do at least one more.
Okay. Let's do the active clients analyzer, or do you want to do the listing launch social media generator? What do you think?
I want to do both. Let's just dive in. Let's just dive in and see what we can do.
Okay.
We're gonna make the social media one super
launch.
simple. Let's just do no image. Let's do only text.
Okay. It's simple.
And we'll just
we'll do LinkedIn and X. Cool.
And I'll say how you would do imagery.
Sure.
If you wanted to.
Sure.
Just in the interest of time. Okay. So I'm gonna make a new workflow. And can you still my screen? I was doing number 2.
Yep.
Social media
generator
listings for new properties.
Cool.
Okay, so in this case, we're gonna have a different trigger. We're not gonna trigger based on incoming email. We're gonna trigger when we add a new row to that listing, the listing tab, our spreadsheet.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna use a Google Sheets row added to sheet trigger. So I'm gonna once again select add trigger.
Okay.
Google Sheets. You'll see that the first trigger option in Google Sheets is new row added. When you're selecting a new row added trigger, of course, the first thing you need to select is which sheet is this row being added to? If we're lucky, once again, that sheet we've been working with, the real estate sheet, will come up at the top here. Let's see.
There it is.
There we go. There's our real estate sheet. And we're going to select the second tab, which is the listings tab. You can see here when the preview loads, you can see a charming home 1 with some information like the address, the description, the price, etc. And so now that's going to have all the information we need to create our social media assets. So once again, let's use an AI step. So we're going to click the add step button. We're going to click the third option, AI. And once again, we're going to click the first and most flexible option, prompt any model. I'm going to use the same kind of prompting pattern that we used before. I'm first going to give it context of what you have, what the AI has. You will be given the listing information of a new property. We want to create social media assets, showcase this listing, and form potential buyers of the property's features. Please carefully review all of the information. The property, create the following. A draft of a tweet, a draft of a post. And of course, if you want to publish this on additional social media channels, Instagram, Facebook, whatever, I would recommend drafting each of these independently because the content style of Facebook is so different from the content style of Instagram. And so the AI models are smart enough to know what a good tweet looks like, what a good LinkedIn post looks like, and what Instagram post looks like.
Mm-hmm.
So now you can see that I've written this prompt.
Information about the property,
Sorry?
by the way. Information about the property, I think, is a typo. Information about the
thank you.
property.
Yes.
Yeah.
Good catch. Yeah, I might have been smart enough to figure that out, but this will be better to get around. And so you can see that in the data from previous step, that particular row of the property information is attached. That's all we need. If we wanted, we could give it examples of previous tweets and LinkedIn posts that we've created.
Would you do that in a knowledge base or in the prompt itself?
If you're only doing one or two, I would do it in the prompt itself.
Yeah.
The prompt itself is always the most reliable, guaranteed mechanism to give the information to the prompt. The knowledge base is more like, here's some supporting stuff that you can query if you need to. Yeah. And so if you're just producing one example, I would do it in a knowledge base. If you have 100 megabytes of client documents, I would put those in a knowledge base. And so an example tweet and example LinkedIn post are always good ideas. In this case, I don't think we'll need them. I think the AI will do a pretty good job on its own. Let's test it and confirm. You can see that as I type that prompt on the right-hand side, correctly identified that I want to treat a tweet and a LinkedIn post. So now I'm going to see the results of this test. You can see here's the tweet, new listing in Binghamton. Here's the address, the listing, real estate home for sale. Honestly, that looks like a decent tweet.
Yep.
And similarly for LinkedIn, it's a little bit longer. It has more line breaks. On LinkedIn, people always put line breaks between things, but fundamentally it's the same content, and it looks pretty good, and it linkifies in line. Yep. So I'm now happy these tweets and LinkedIn posts are good. Once again, I'm going to change my title and generate tweets.
And just hypothetical here, we have the trigger as a Google Sheet, but could we maybe scrape like the MLS or something like that, where it's like real life listings going here, kind of?
Totally. So you could use an email trigger like we used before. If, for example, you get automatically notified of MLS listings over email, or you could use a more advanced trigger type like a webhook or an RSS feed. We might want to cover those in a separate, more advanced session. But there are a variety of ways you can basically hook into feeds of new properties coming out and then automatically syndicate them on social media. In this case, I don't know the real estate world well, but I think if you're the listing agent for something, you would probably have it in your own base of property as well. So I think this is somewhat realistic. Now that we have the tweet and the LinkedIn post, we need to actually post those things. Yeah. So I'm going to press the plus button and I'm going to tweet.
And just while you're doing this, another thing that you could do to add on to this is then after you make the tweets, then add a step to find any relevant buyers that might be interested in this listing and to email them as well with that.
Exactly. You could actually use the same exact flow that we built in the previous demo. Look at my client list, see who is relevant, send personalized emails. You could hook that up to this workflow as well.
Very cool.
And so you can see that post tweet is a pretty simple action. It takes in the tweet and an image. To put in the tweet, I'm going to press the plus button. I'm going to pull in the draft of the tweet that the AI produced.
Easy peasy.
If you're doing this for real, of course, you'd want to include an image of the house.
Of the home.
We don't have time to cover that in this demo, but the way you would do that is you would have image URL in your spreadsheet. Yeah. And then you would be able to automatically download that image in the Relay.app workflow and then select it images. We can share a link.
Oh, cool.
We can share a link later to an example that pulls in the image to go along with the text of the tweet.
That's really cool that you could do that in Relay.
And then we'll do the exact same thing for the LinkedIn post. I'm going to type LinkedIn. I'm going to create a post from my personal profile. And once again, I'm just going to pull in the output of the AI step. Again, we don't have the image available to us now, but for sure, if you were a real estate agent, you'd want to include the nicest image or set of images about the property. And that's all there is to it. When a new row is added to that spreadsheet, it's going to automatically generate a high quality LinkedIn post announcing that. It's going to post the tweet and it's going to create the LinkedIn post. What would you do to extend upon this? You could pull in the image, you could add a human in the loop step, but this is the basics.
Yeah. One thing I might add is like have a filter on the instant trigger where it's like published equals yes. So something that you flick on of like, once you add the new row and then you're actually ready to go live, then you do it kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. So if the new row trigger could be appropriate. And you could say, for example,
Like add a different field of like ready to
or let's
post
say
or
I just
whatever.
want to make sure that it's fully populated. So you can see here that we have name, address, description.
Yeah.
And let's say I want to wait to make sure description is populated before
Right.
this fires. I could add a filter that says description
Is not empty. Yep.
And that way it's going to make sure that like it only fires. It's not going to post any tweets for things that don't have a description.
Yeah. Perfect. That's
So
great.
that's use case number 2.
Okay. Fantastic. We're flying here.
Should we move on to number 3?
We should do it. Active Client Analyzer.
Yeah. So what we're going to do here is this is going to be sort of a nurturing use case. And let me just walk you through how I'm thinking about it. And then I'd love your feedback on
Sure.
whether this makes sense. What we're going to do is we're going to run this once a week. And we're going to have the AI look into our knowledge base. And we're going to try to find clients that we haven't interacted with recently. And I think in our knowledge base, we have a notes field that includes, or a status field that includes like when they started looking and what their status is.
Like a looking date and a status. Yeah.
Exactly. So we're basically just going to ask our AI and say, look through the knowledge base, look through everyone who's looking, look through who's been looking the longest time, remind me about what they're looking for, and then that'll give me a nudge to reach out to them.
Yeah.
So in this case, we're not going to use an app-based trigger. We're just going to use a schedule trigger because we want this to happen once a week. So we're going to have this run weekly. Well, Tuesday seems like as good a day as any for this to run. Maybe I want to do it on a Sunday because it's a less busy day, and I can kind of reflect on what I want to accomplish for the week ahead. And once again, we're going to add an AI step, and we're going to use prompt any model. And once again, we're going to hook up the knowledge base from. I don't need to reconnect it as knowledge here because we already attached it before. And now I'm just going to attach it to this particular workflow. And so I'm going to say, given a knowledge base of real estate clients
that are looking to buy a home, something like that.
Good point. That are looking to buy a home. Please identify the clients that have been looking for the longest and send me a short report of the 5 clients I should reach out to this week to check in. Be sure to remind me what the client is looking for and what their price range is. And you can see that in this case, unlike the previous cases where we got structured output, this one is just going to give us a text report. And that's what we want. We just want a text report that's going to be sent to us over email every week with this assistive summary of what we want to focus on for the following week. Once again, I'm going to use Claude Force on it. Let's test it and see. Let's see how good AI is at this. AI is warning me, and it's saying, in general, you want to have data for a previous step to get good results in an AI workflow. In this case, I have a knowledge base attached, so I'm actually happy that this is going to work. I'm so curious to see how good of a report this is going to be.
Yeah. And I'm already thinking about like next steps of like, could it just draft some emails that they put like as a draft in our inbox for us of like how they might approach something like, helping them.
Totally. Or there's so many ideas you could run with from here. You could say, automatically generate a polite email to each of them to check in. You could say, look at my listings and just double check to make sure that none of them fit their profile. You could have it automatically pull down some data live from Redfin or Zillow to see if there are any other listings you should show them or any other geographic areas they might want to search in. Once you have this basic report, you could really go wild and extend it with lots of assistive actions.
Yeah.
So here's what this AI says. It says, perfect, I can see the client data with their started looking date, which helped me identify who has been searching the longest. Let me analyze the dates to find the 5 clients who've been looking for homes the longest. Based on the data, here are the 5 clients who have been looking for homes the longest that you should reach out to. Emily Martinez, looking since December 13th. Price range, looking for notes.
There's something we missed here, though. Look at the status.
Status offer made. So you can see that it did a good job of referencing the looking since field. but it did
Yeah.
a bad job of referencing the status field. So you can see that many of these have already made an offer and therefore aren't really relevant for this
Yeah.
analysis.
Yep.
So let's go back to the prompt and say, do not include any clients whose status
Is not looking.
offer made.
Okay, that too.
Because I think the one that's touring, it may still be okay that we
Sure.
can reach out to them. But again, you
Sure.
could customize that. You could say only include people whose status is looking, or only include people whose status is touring. However you want to kind of represent the data in your CRM.
There's a couple more. There's under contract, and offer made. Yeah, those are the two.
Yeah, let me
But
just
otherwise,
add
we
both
should be
of
good.
those. Oh, and another thing that was kind of annoying was it said like, perfect, I'll do that for you at the
We don't need
front.
that, right?
And so
Yeah.
I'll say like, only include the report itself, no summary of the task that you're doing. Sometimes it can be hard to get the AI to say what it just did for you.
Yeah.
But let's see if that's good enough.
Cool.
Let me test it. Okay, so it didn't quite follow my instructions to not
include the top.
not include the preamble. It still did that, but it told me it excluded those. And so now I'm pretty sure it excluded the ones with offer made, but I'm going to actually say, be sure to include the client status.
What about putting something like important or all caps, or like, do you think that helps in the prompt?
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
I honestly haven't seen it help. I'm just maybe I'll say like, this is very important. Only include report itself, which will be sent in body an email. Do not summarize the task as a preamble. Okay, let's see if we've been clear enough with our AI friend to achieve the goal this time. So we made two changes, right? We asked it to include the status column because we really wanted to include that. And we said, please don't include the preamble. I just want the thing that I can include in the email.
Now, in a situation like this where you're doing it programmatically to lots of people, you could include almost like a next step, which is like a QA step, where it's just like double checking that none of this is done. And
exactly. If we can't get this to work, this is exactly what I would do. I'd add another step. Okay, so now it did a good job of putting the status in the top.
Yep.
It still is telling me based on the client database, blah, blah, blah. And so what I would do is I would create a subsequent step that's like, take just the report of the previous step.
Yeah.
But just to tie a bow on this, I'm going to retitle this and say draft client report. And then I'm going to have this sent to myself as an email.
Yeah. And now I noticed that we haven't actually used your AI agent node compared to just prompting an LM. What's the difference here? Like, when would you want to use that AI agent node compared to just the prompt?
So here's my hot take. My hot take is that a workflow is almost always the right choice rather than agent. Let me tell you the difference. Every task has a flow chart. A flow chart of we're going to do this, then we're going to do this, then we might do that, or we might do that, or then we'll do this a number of times. So every task is a flow chart. In a workflow, the flow chart is pre-specified upfront by me, the human, the workflow creator. In an agent, the agent is given a goal and a set of tools, and it creates the flow chart. So to create this as an agent, we would have basically created a single step that says, draft a client report and send it out over email. The reason I don't prefer an agent for this use case is it is introducing a lot of unnecessary risk and unpredictability when we actually have a pretty simple use case. I know that I wanted to use AI to first draft a thing and then send exactly one email to myself.
Mm-hmm.
All the use cases we showed today, in my opinion, are going to give you way more reliable, predictable, high quality results as a workflow.
Mm-hmm.
There are a few cases where I have seen a true agent be desirable, and that's when you can't possibly know the flowchart up front,
Yeah.
And that typically occurs in researchy use cases. Like, that's why deep research is such a powerful tool, because when you're doing research on a topic, you don't know how many web pages you need to go to. You don't know how many Google searches you need to run. You don't know how much of your internal knowledge you need to reference. And so that's the one case where I do think agents are valuable. For example, like, go find me a list of 100 leads and keep searching till you get there. That's something that an agent is good for. But for anything like this, that's like reacting to an incoming event and sending out some emails, or reacting to a new listing and creating a social media launch, or creating a weekly report like this, I think a workflow with an intelligent AI step inside of it is going to be a much more reliable path to success for most people, at least in my experience.
Cool. Yeah, I agree with that. I think agents could also be good for like really fuzzy things of like monitoring your email inbox and, figuring out what's the best route for the inbox, the email that came in, or customer service use cases or stuff like that. There's a lot of text, a lot of fuzzy areas of where to go with this.
And if there are many iterations back and forth, an agent can also be valuable, because you want it to have memory of the conversation that it's had. So that's another case where a true agent can be valuable if you want to create a support bot, for example. But even then, I would say agents are really handled with care, because if you don't, it just puts so much pressure on your prompting skills. Because I'm a decent prompter, and I've had a very hard time making AI agents behave effectively on complex tasks.
Yeah, and over again, do the same, similar results kind of thing.
Yeah. And so the way I think about it is like, anything that you can pre-specify in a workflow, do so, and then have your agent use a more agentic approach for the targeted components of the workflow that really benefit from that tool calling.
Yeah, be
the
very
iterative
specific
tool
with it.
calling that makes something agentic.
Awesome.
And with that, I think we did all three. So we'll share the 3 templates afterwards. I hope people find them really, really valuable. Neither of us are real estate agents, though we've known real estate agents, and we've had customers who are real estate agents. I know both of us in our day jobs. And so if you're a real estate agent, you have use cases that you think we could help you with, or have suggestions or ideas, like, we'd love to hear the feedback.
Yeah, I mean, we built some really cool things that will save real estate agents a lot of time. And the cool part is this can be done in any industry, and you could take this much deeper too. I mean, especially with how easy Relay is. You're almost like talking to GPT in that way, but you can have schedules and then knowledge bases and additional things that just extend that so much further. So it's a similar use case, or it's a similar interface that you're used to with ChatGPT, but with much more powers to really expand your business.
Yeah, and we did all 3 of those in about 45 minutes, and we were also talking along the way. And yeah, we planned this a little bit in advance, and I'm pretty experienced.
Not that much, but yeah.
in the product. So I'm not saying that everyone can do all 3 of those in 45 minutes, but really, if you sit down for an hour, you'll be able to create something that saves you at least that much time every week.
Yeah, awesome. If someone wanted like an intro to get started, do you have any resources that you could suggest to them?
Yeah, I actually just did an AI Agents 101 class last week. It's about a 45-minute video up on YouTube. Definitely check that out, and we can link to it. And what I'm doing now is, in addition to that kind of 45-minute class, I'm doing a bunch more quick hitter classes on specific topics. 30 minutes on LinkedIn analysis, 30 minutes on Reddit analysis, 30 minutes on managing your email inbox, 30 minutes on creating summary reports. And so I'm hopeful that once you've watched that beginning overview, your mind will already be racing on a bunch of use cases. And then I have a lot of follow-up resources that'll hopefully be valuable once you feel like you're ready to dive in and make your own.
Awesome. Jacob, this has been a blast. Thank you so much for taking that time.
Thanks for hosting me, JJ. You're the best host. It's always awesome to talk to you. And I hope everyone finds it really valuable.
I cannot see how they couldn't. We just saved them a bunch of time. Super easy. We will put the templates in the links. Thanks again.
Thanks so much.